we're gonna come up with a topic, and it's gonna be good, and it's gonna be amazing, and it's gonna be amazingly amazing, and we're gonna keep on keeping on, guys. Keep on keeping on, and that's what people need to do, man. People need to know. Anybody, I like. I try to say stuff sometimes, and I'm not drunk or anything like that. Um, I think that there are a lot of times where people think about certain aspects of their life, and they try to come up with different things that are pertinent to the times. I guess I don't know. I mean, I guess when they're coming up with an idea, that's what I do sometimes. I come up with an idea. I try to see what facts I've known or what things I've known because of the things that I've researched, and I try to come up with an opinion about it. I guess, and that opinion about something is first of all, I think sometimes that people don't get the what's the word certain distinctions of where they're coming from sometimes. But most of the time when I'm actually doing something about anything, I'm trying to make a differentiation of facts sometimes, because a lot of stuff gets jumbled up in my head. So I try to pick stuff apart, and I'm gonna go online, see if I can find some people to kill. It's fun. All right. Most of the time when I'm ever trying to do something, I think about what about I think about what I try to think about, and then I make a bunch of distinctions in my head. Distinctions about facts and different things like that. Somebody's trying to yell in the background, but Mike's not that good, so it's usually why I don't get those things. So so yeah, I try a lot of times to come up with certain facts and certain distinctions about what kind of stuff I like to do, and whenever I'm coming up with certain distinctions and facts, I try to make up a some sort of topic, and that topic itself comes up with different ideas, and those ideas I usually have to either get to through a certain value of thought, and through that certain value of thought, I'm able to make sure that there is a a certain a differentiation of what I think the thought is, and the most of the time I make a that after distinction, I guess. That what that after distinction is I try to make sure that I can and yes, here we go. Got a pink one and a black one. We're gonna go with the pink one first because all right. A lot of times there are certain differentiations of thought between what you actually think of, like certain facts you try to make up, I guess, or certain what's the word certain thoughts you try to tell yourself is fact, and there are most of the time when I'm going through like a thought post, I'm trying to go through certain certain facts I've learned over the years, certain jokes I've always seen, and certain things that I've actually been able to associate with different things through say a number of examples, and that's basically my thought process in a nutshell right now. And it's probably because my brain is actually starting to heal itself, I guess. So a lot of times I think that and it takes a lot of time to be able to do those certain things. I mean, it takes a lot of time to be able to get those certain things done, like brain surgery, basically. And I farted. A lot of times there are there are so many different kinds of different things that people don't understand the certain correlations between stuff. And the ways that I can use certain examples are, say for instance, you go to a what's the word? You go to like a coffee shop or something like that. What's going on? How's it going, guys? No, not really. I'm on live stream right now. I'm just talking about my thoughts and shit. So, but yeah, most of the times I think about where I am in my life, and I try to work on that. So hopefully I can come up with some jokes right now. But I probably won't. But I'm just gonna see if I can just play this now. So let's think about that for a moment. All right. Most of the time when I studied psychology, I was in high school. I studied the psychology of body movement, and I tried to see how many people actually were not affected by something, but by how many people, the way people would move, or the things that people would do. I am still the one. Let's see, wait, is there any more people left? Yep, they're done. So when I used to do this in high school, I get mad sometimes, and I yell at people. I didn't actually yell at this one person, but that certain person wouldn't kind of shut up, and we were in the middle of class. And basically, I wasn't security, but I kind of just kicked someone out of class, and it really sucks sometimes that that people actually do go through those things, and what they don't understand is that it's like they're too old for that stuff. And a lot of times people didn't know anything about it, and I have to be more mature. And whenever I actually get some kind of maturity, I try to think about what I'm gonna do. And when I think about what I'm gonna do, I'm kind of lost for words at this point sometimes. And but most times when I was able to come up with some sort of better maturity for myself, I would adopt that, and sometimes lose a couple of facts, I guess. And this is what I'm trying to be able to pick up, I guess, as far as my thoughts go. And I studied and practiced a little bit of body language psychology because I wondered what the emotion was behind Kung Fu and the stuff that I learned from my dad. So I noticed the ways that they moved, I guess, was an interpretation of emotion of an animal. But through that, I saw a lot of different motions between different martial arts that I learned. And when I was younger, I started to learn it, and I didn't really understand the philosophies behind it. But I guess when I was about 17 or 18, my dad started talking about stuff that happened to him when he was in the army a lot more. And it started to click, basically. I started to realize that my dad was a serious badass, and that's the reason why he's usually left alone in situations, because...
Don't say anything.
Alright, but other than that, I think what people don't really understand about me is I don't do a lot. So it's like whenever I'm actually in a situation that calls for something to be defended for, I just try to talk myself out of it, basically, or talk to someone to be able to tell them that it's just like, hey, it's not that big of a deal. But and also realizing that that a lot of times it's not a lot of times where where I've made a big distinction about myself. It's more of I've I've been doing a lot of different things that involve uh, certain things, I guess, and I've purposely not learned moves because of certain people that like, I mean, I think you don't ever want to learn those moves sometimes, and you want to know that some people use them, I guess, because I know that people use those certain moves like Tiger Palm, and because Tiger Palm can be extremely lethal to the person who's actually using it and the person who's actually experiencing it. To use a flat palm on someone is to vibrate their bones, basically, and it sucks, and it's really bad, and I've never actually known to use it. I don't use lethal techniques on people, so that's the reason why I choose to just try to get them on the ground and then get out of there, I guess. But also too, I'm not really a one person to say that I actually try to knock them on the ground. Like, I don't slam them on the ground. I'll scoop them. So scooping is where you basically you pick them up and you lay them flat on the ground. The area itself, it evenly distributes something. So actually, you can actually not help someone, but I guess realize that that you're not actually hurting them. Basically, I didn't. That's the reason why it's like that. So that's like a move that I used once, and it was only to make sure that the person knew that they were supposed to stay out of the bar, or where they were supposed to go, and they had a lot of times where people it sucked, man. There was so much stuff, man, but I don't want to get into too many details at all about what's going on.
Hey.
But most of the time when I was actually being security in a lot of different places, not a lot of different places, but most of the time when I was working as security, and not that I was ever trying to be security in a place where I wasn't actually getting paid, but a lot of times where I decided I was, sometimes I would usually try to, I'd say like people would try to say weasel, I guess, but understandably so. They don't understand me at all. They'll never understand me because I'll usually never share anything with them. I mean, it's nice to talk to people, it really is. But a lot of times people think that, I mean, not a lot of times. Through my experience, I've noticed that the people that I've dealt with over a certain period of time have always, like, I guess, not really wanted something, I guess, but more often felt like they got the wrong end of the stick. And that was my experience, not in the French Quarter, but in a lot of places around New Orleans. There are a lot of people that feel as though they got dragged through the mud, and a lot of times I realized that there were certain situations that I just needed to stay out of because of the fact that I just wasn't experienced in being able to do stuff like that. I was able to calm down situations that were where people wanted to actually stop the situation, but in situations where I wasn't prepared, I just walk away and say have a good day, and I don't try to mess with people or anything like that. I don't try to do stupid shit because it makes me feel like I'm not giving as much of a benefit of the doubt for people, because I know that people go through things, and it's not like I've ever done anything of any illegal nature. But I mean, I'm not saying that I haven't, but I'm also not saying that I have either, because and I've also done things before, but I mean, it wasn't usually with my friends. It was usually with other people that I just met. So realization of fact is that a lot of times there were situations where I really wanted to make sure that I was that I was in a situation, I guess, or that I was a part of a situation, so that I could, I guess, just not tell people hi, I guess, but just realize that if they ever needed to, like, if they ever went off the deep end or something like that, then I know for a fact that I'm not the one that actually does that, but if they ever need somebody to talk to, or somebody to be around, or somebody to just bullshit with, then it just, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. There are people out there that are wanted, I guess, and there are people out there that are actually needed for certain things, and a lot of times I was basically trying to be a person that was respected, I guess, in a situation where, while that guy really knows what he's talking about, I should really trust him. And if ever that guy was to make a business, I would want to be a part of it. And I was just trying to make sure that I could get, like, people to be a part of the things that I wanted to be a part of. And a lot of times I raced through my thoughts to find out exactly how I could, I guess, relate to people sometimes. And I'm not saying that I haven't or wasn't a little bit what's the word, twangy, I guess, or what's the word, people would say, like, the reason, I guess, why I tried to use different situations to my advantage, and make someone realize that they were trying to make the wrong decision. I would just, and I wouldn't try to rub it in their face or anything like that, because, I mean, that's not going to change anyone's mind. I wouldn't say, you're doing this wrong every single time they see me or something like that. I'd say, and I know they wouldn't stay out of it, I guess, but I have to realize that there are people out there that have records sometimes that are in fucked up situations, and sometimes if they don't realize that they have an emotional out, if they don't realize that situation, if they don't realize that fact, and they don't realize that there is a situation where people are able to I'm not saying that I'm gonna stop crime or something like that, or that I'm telling on anyone or something like that, because usually I save the telling on someone for, like, people who are, like, abusing babies and women and stuff like that. That's usually when I tell on someone. But when I do think about a certain situation, I realize that a lot of times when I really wanted to do something, that was good, I just wanted to make someone feel better about themselves. I mean, it may make them some sort of different person, I guess, and some sort of people were like, you changed the profile. No, I didn't change that person. That person will still do the same things that they want to do, but realize that the more it's the way that they feel about the things that they're doing sometimes, and they'll start to realize that the more they look at certain situations by themselves, the more they'll see that certain risks are just out of the question sometimes, because the risk they're taking, it doesn't outweighs the stuff they're actually trying to do with their lives. It's like people who have been in fucked up situations or security situations that have just, like, I just want to, like, make food or something like that, or I just want to, like, do something better for society or something like that. They realize that through those situations, they don't realize they're changing. They don't realize that they're completely and utterly changing as a person. Because trauma can change you. It really can. And not only can it change you, but it kind of molds you sometimes. But it can mold you into a better person if you realize that it's wrong, and you realize that you're, like, you're unfit to lead something if you feel as though you have a disability. You're unfit to be near something if you feel as though you have something and you don't. There are situations where have been situations in my life where I could not hold on to myself. I could not, like, sometimes. And that's the reason why I was afraid, I guess. Because I realized that in some cases I literally couldn't. There were just situations where I was not able to do things. And in most situations I realized that that I wasn't doing the wrong thing, but I wasn't always doing the best thing. And a lot of times people didn't realize that sometimes the best thing wasn't the best course of action. In order to make sure that a person actually realizes something, don't be the perfect person, because then they'll just be snobby and say, oh, you're just the perfect person, aren't you? Say something stupid like dumbness and idiotic stuff, but understandably so. A lot of times they would say something stupid or something dumb, like hey, I'm gonna do this stuff that's really great, guys. And I think that stuff is taking a back seat to a lot of stuff that's actually happening in our society. I think a lot of that stuff is actually taking a back seat, and use a douchebag with a freaking DeLorean. but a lot of times I notice that then when people take a back seat to what they actually use for their mental health, what they'll start to notice is their personality starts to change and their mind starts to suffer. And I have to go to the bathroom, excuse me.
Whatever. What the fuck?
Situations where my life and I didn't understand it until later on. And I realized if I started exercising and moving and doing a bunch of stuff, then I would never actually get to that fact. Because that's what happens when you push yourself hard and do a lot of different situations. You'll actually understand, or start to understand, that that a certain situation in your life changes because of something that you do. And I'm trying to take a time off, basically, to be able to realize my exact goals, because I've realized that I'm not that great at art sometimes. I've also realized that I'm not that attuned to my own self sometimes, and I kind of had to be on a journey. So I'm taking this journey, and I hope people actually watch and are So a lot of times I based my viewpoints on something, and when I based my viewpoints on something, I based it on other people's experience, and it wasn't really other people's experience, though more of it was somebody else's sarcasm or idiocy or dumbness or certain situational irony, I guess. A lot of times people didn't understand why they were acting cool in high school. I didn't even understand why I was trying to act cool in high school. There were just situations and people around that were just manipulative, and other people were being manipulative, and they were saying that they were being manipulative. So that's what happens in high school. People manipulate each other and try to make each other say things that they think is funny. And a lot of times I noticed that there were certain situations that I noticed around town and around my own school, Um, there were a lot of times when I realized that certain people weren't the things that I thought they were. But in actuality, it didn't mean that they were the worst people. It just meant that they weren't as good as I thought they were. But in actuality, sometimes I was going to go down a different road, and I realized that I wanted to focus on what I wanted to do, because I was either going to sell this company, or I was going to be able to make this company into something great and be able to detail my schedule and be able to make sure that I could do certain things. And but I didn't stay in places sometimes, and I didn't get any ideas from in certain places. So it kind of just stuck with me realizing that that the people that supported me only support me in a certain area, I guess. And I noticed that that a lot of times too, there were many cases when I understood that that these certain reasons and certain people out there were just looking out for themselves, and they weren't actually having any bad intentions, but they were just looking out for number one sometimes. And that's not a bad thing, because it's the American way sometimes. It's a lot of different things you think about, so, you know. So so when I started realizing these certain notions and certain things weren't actually cruel or stupid, but they were certain situations where if I got involved in, I knew I wouldn't be able to get out of. I'm like not saying that I would ever like think that anyone else was like there, but I know that if I disappointed them, then they would never think the same about me again. And I would never want someone to actually think that about me. I would never want someone to actually make that a certain thing. And I'm gonna kind of try to. There we go. Just trying to act with the sun in. God damn it. How many profiles have you milked? Alright, so through a lot of different experiences, I noticed that there were situations where
Okay.
I noticed a serious reality that was broken in myself, and I had to pick up the pieces. When I picked up those pieces, I noticed a lot of different things in my life were based on certain situations that I thought I was gonna have, but never knew about. And when those situations actually tried to become a part of myself, I guess, or those situations actually started happening, I realized that I was never gonna be that thing, or never gonna be that person that people either insinuated or said, and I was never gonna be that person who decided that I was gonna choose for everyone or something like that, or say something for everyone that would benefit everyone. Sometimes, I mean, it's not that I'm not that kind of person, or that I don't want it to be that person, but it's more like I don't want to make that notion appropriate and then not be able to deliver. So that's my fear sometimes, is to be completely and utterly without production of anything, or ideas, or anything like that. And it's the reason why I constantly try to come up with new ideas, and it makes me feel like I'm pushing against myself. But as I feel as though I'm pushing against myself, I realize that I'm making myself better. I realize that through every situation and every realization that I'm making about myself, or I'm making through other different situations that I've experienced, I'm realizing that I'm a pretty respectful guy, and I'm also not extremely private, but I'm really defensive when it comes to my own privacy sometimes. And a lot of times I've been specifically set on certain things, and when I set those certain things about myself, I realized that people themselves try to distinctively. I'm gonna have to go to a different server. I'm sorry. This is kind of. but yeah, I've noticed that a lot of times there are people out there that decide that they're going to push through a certain situation, and no matter what, and sometimes they miss out on certain opportunities. And I've also noticed that through my own experience, I've been able to make sure that certain people don't get the exact amount of what I'm actually trying to say sometimes. And but I guess that's not the thing that I should be worried about, because eventually they'll get it. Um, what I'm actually trying to say is that whenever you're going through a messed up situation and you feel as though it's the last part of your life, it's just the last part your brain actually saw. We go through so many different changes in our lives. Okay, so many different possibilities that could be or should be. We see a knife or a gun, and we envision shooting that gun. That are possibilities past that, but understandably so, those possibilities are hard to grasp, and our brain tries to insinuate some sort of joke or some sort of thing to keep ourselves completely and utterly calm in a situation that calls for it. So as that situation happens, or as that situation starts to become, you have to realize that, and I had to realize this a very long time ago when I was a really young kid, that the more notions that I made that were panicky or stupid, I guess, in my own eyes, I saw that that certain situations that I would make is just kind of not my profile, and like not going as far as any of that stuff that I usually did, I guess, but more of the stuff that I should have noticed before all that stuff, and realized that it's like I wasn't doing the right thing, and when I tried to do the right thing, I realized that those situations themselves were kind of snowballing, and no matter what, I would still come to the same conclusion. That people can be bad sometimes, and other people can really make you feel like shit. But understandably so, if they're really doing that, then that person has to understand that they're being a shit person in the first place. They're being, like, just completely mean, and I guess what you really have to understand about certain situations when people are being mean is that they're going through something. And no matter what you do after you realize that fact, the more you realize it, the more you'll understand to just keep yourself out of situations. And the more that I realized that at a young age, even though I did things that were stupid, like when I was getting jumped, I should have just ran away. But, I mean, I felt like the kids were surrounding me because that's all I could focus on. And when there were certain situations that happened, I reacted appropriately. But realization of fact is there should have been somebody to be able to be there, to be able to handle the situation for me, because it's the reason why I don't hang out at bars anymore. That's the reason why a lot of times I've realized a lot of situations that I shouldn't be in, and a lot of situations that I really, really shouldn't be a part of. But there are also situations out there that if they ever come to fruition, or ever are, then I'd be happy to be able to accept it. But understandably so, I won't be there for long. I mean, I'm just gonna try to be there as a certain person, to be able to be there for someone that I know, or someone that I love, or someone that I care about. And through those situations, I believe that the situations in my life that I've tried to advance with and be able to make a better part of myself, I've understood that there are a lot of times when I noticed that that the most I ever cared about, the most I ever tried, was just being, I guess, a better person for the people that were in my life. And the more people, I guess, that are in my life, I guess the more complicated it gets, but I think the more exciting it gets too. But also, I am gonna hold everyone up to the same accord sometimes. Not to the same amount of scrutiny, but moreover to the same amount of dumb dad jokes and And people who don't get my sense of humor or personality, I guess, are the people that sometimes eventually I let go of. But they have to understand that, I mean, it's like I still care about them and respect them. But there are a lot of times when I realized certain things that people were doing, and I just couldn't be a part of it. I mean, whenever there's something about myself that I believe in, it's something that I believe in, and it's something that I stay true to. And there are times of lapse whenever I feel as though that I'm doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong kind of stuff. But there are a lot of times also that I start to laugh at myself, and I realize the situation isn't as bad as I put it out to be. And whenever I see a situation that's actually bad, and I start to realize that there are no real exits sometimes, the realization of fact that I see is that the more I start to realize something, the more I start to understand something, the more I start to realize the fact that a certain situation of behavior, I guess, the more I start to realize a certain behavior that someone has, the more I start to realize that that person is deciding something in their lives. And when they're deciding that certain fact, they're not leaving me out of it, but they're definitely not keeping me in it, you know? A lot of times I based my beliefs off of something that I saw or something that I did. And then I realized that through that certain situation, I was basing my focus on something that didn't matter, or wasn't being the person, or I wasn't being the person that I really needed to be for myself. And when I went to certain jobs or did certain things, I noticed that I just died. Yeah. I went to certain jobs and I did certain things that were unbalanced, and I realized that they were only unbalanced because it wasn't the specific job that I actually wanted at the time, even though I needed a job and I needed something to be able to do. But through certain situations, I understood that no matter what I did, no matter how I did it, I would try to do it to the best of my ability. And I wound up surprising a lot of people sometimes, and realizing and letting them know that I had a lot of strength and a lot of willpower to be able to do a lot of different things. That I wasn't probably the best person for the job, but I was probably at the time the right person for the job. So whenever I realize certain situations, and I realize that there are certain facts that I guess nobody knows about sometimes, I try to distance myself as far as the situation as possible, because the more I notice something, the more I realize that if I told a person, or if I ever tried to tell a person about it, the more they'd realize that they just wouldn't believe me. I noticed that a lot of times when in my life that went by, and I guess I would just get too excited sometimes, and when I went through certain situations in my life, I would always try to tell people, I guess, about certain things sometimes, and when I started to see them not care, I just realized that there were people out there that just didn't care about what they wanted sometimes, or just didn't care about how they wanted something, or they just wanted to stay in the same job forever, and that's not profitable. That's not responsible sometimes. And that's the reason why I started and I wanted to start my own company. But I also realized that it's not the perfect fit for me. I've noticed that there are a lot of times when I decided certain things, I noticed that that I didn't have the correct style for something. Like I didn't have the correct brush strokes to be able to understand exactly the reasons how painters painted. I have my own style, and that's true, but I also know that there are different types of styles, and there are different types of brush strokes, and I noticed that I only studied a certain amount of kung fu, I guess, and I only noticed a certain amount of people that were actually doing anything like that. So as I started to realize certain situations in my life, I started to understand that that the more I tried to picture myself as a person that actually wanted to do that, the more I realized that I wasn't actually doing what I wanted. And whenever I got through a certain situation, whenever I tried to get to a certain situation, whenever I tried to be a certain person, or that certain person for the situation, that Mr. Right Now, or Mr. the dude that's gonna make everything better, I would literally like, what's the word, I would starve myself through situations sometimes. I would literally push myself to the brink of almost pure stress outness to be able to literally try and do something completely different for myself. I've noticed that a lot of times when I believed in certain things about myself, and I'm breathing a lot. I need to start breathing. I noticed that through certain situations, I based my experiences off of certain people that I knew would never fall through, or would never follow through sometimes. And the most I gave to myself in those situations, as far as thought goes, was, okay, that's cool. Those situations are good. I didn't try to make any memories or different things off of it. I didn't try to remember an idea or something like that. I just tried to base myself and realize that the situation itself called for someone that was probably a little bit more experienced than I was. And I think that I made the right decision in those situations, but I mean, that's always left up to debate, probably. So I've noticed that a lot of times too that that there were different basic functions and things like that between people, and stuff that people would always have, like their own little jokes or anything like that. But also I knew that people didn't actually always think like that. In certain situations where I worked in the French Quarter or where I worked in other places, people would try to become literally town celebrities sometimes, and it would just be the most annoying thing to me, because a lot of times I based my my situations on my work alone, and mostly reference, but there are a lot of times too where I noticed that there are people out there that gave a shit about me, and if I didn't have those people around, if I didn't realize those people were literally pushing for me to be able to get something the entire time, then I would never have those opportunities around. And a lot of times I realized that people respected me enough, and I felt happy enough to be able to realize that at least a certain number of people respected me, and realized that that I understood a certain situation enough to be able to understand a certain number of people, I guess, and be able to realize a certain situation that could actually be solved through, I'd say, imaginative interpretation. So, through a lot of different situations, I realized that there were a lot of people out there that I fell apart with, that I grew apart from, and that they didn't realize were the connection just wasn't there. And this is mostly relationships, but it's not exactly just relationships. I realized that certain people and certain things were just not going to be there for me sometimes, and even though they weren't, I realized that I could make them, not make them, but I could help them respect me, or help them realize that I'm actually a respectable person, and that I don't go for stupid things. And certain things that I would say or certain things that I would do was probably the opposite of that stuff, but mostly I was just trying to make sure that the people that would gossip around everyone or something like that always had something to talk about, and then I would just be doing my work. So but mostly I think that they understood that they didn't realize that there were situations around that they didn't believe, I guess, or the situations around that they just never thought of, because the facts weren't coming to them, and those kind of people it's not the kind of person they are. I guess it's only the experiences that they've been through and realize that they've been disappointed so many times. And that I don't judge them for, but I think that if they don't realize that not every person is the same, then I understand that they will never have a permanent job, I guess, because of their lack of experience and their lack of experience in history and the things that happen all the time. And the reason why they keep getting surprised and depressed about certain things is because sometimes they had depression before they started working, and then they decided to do something, and then they realized that it just was more work. So people think that a lot of times the certain states that they're in or certain things that they're doing is the way that they'll be forever. And a lot of times it's not the case. But I've noticed a lot of times that I've based off my my certain what's the word certain things that I've ever noticed in my life, certain things that I've ever realized in my life. I've noticed that that a lot of problems sometimes come around because of certain people who don't realize a certain situation is happening around them. And through that, what's the word? Certain based, reality. They don't realize that there are, there are basic, basic actions that don't, that aren't going to involve people who basically have made a name for themselves, that they just that they're always loud, or they're always doing something, or they're always throwing some sort of person off, or they're always trying to ruin someone's shit because they think it's funny. Or they're always trying to break something because they think that it's better because the future is coming or something like that. There are a lot of people that realize that they think they have rights in places that they can do anything. And they think that they fall through the cracks sometimes when that's literally not the case. But the more I realize that they didn't fall through the cracks, the more I realize that those people will realize a lot of times where they don't understand that the times that they thought were over, I guess, are just kind of beginning. And the more that I think about it, the more that I realize that I guess that's the reason why I kind of left the French Quarter in the first place, is because sometimes it's its own ecosystem, and people have to understand that that is the wrong kind of thing to be. As far as a bar or something like that, people have to understand that there is an entire city out there to be able to experience. And there are a lot of different people out there that actually invest money in different things and really, really want their name out there sometimes. And there are things all over town to be able to experience. And I've noticed that a lot of times people just try to keep people in bars all the time, or inside of gambling places sometimes. And I've noticed that a lot of times when you think about what the wrong and the right choices are, like, should I go for a picnic or should I go to the bar and drink a beer? Realize that that's how you meet people sometimes, is going to a picnic instead of the bar. And the right kind of people sometimes, the people that actually have 100% togetherness and really want you to have things 100% together sometimes. Because a lot of times those women are just getting out of college and they're ready to be able to date, or they're ready to be able to experience a new relationship. Or they're not getting just out of college, they're probably getting their master's or their PhD or something like that. If you want to realize a certain thing and a certain person is out there for you, and a certain person is out there probably for me, but there are also a lot of times when people blow things out of proportion and think that the certain situation in their life is the reason why things are happening. And I think that what brings me to a conclusion that tells me that that's not the case is certain nuances and certain things that people would notice about those certain things. And I just wouldn't see it sometimes. But I would also understand that sometimes I guess I'm bullheaded, I guess, and I'm not really like that kind of person anymore. I realized that I had to share things, no matter what. No matter if I knew the situation, no matter if I didn't know the situation, no matter if the situation wasn't even the way that I saw it, wasn't even the way that I experienced it, or wasn't even the thing that I was actually thinking about. Maybe I was just panicked or having a panic attack when I was a young kid because there were a lot of people who smoked weed around me. And there were also a lot of people who did certain things that I didn't do. And most of the time I would push through a certain situation, and I would realize that the situation didn't exactly call for it, but most of the time I would realize a certain goal in a certain situation through that thing that I actually did. And most of the time when I realize a certain situation is going south, I cut and run. But understandably I don't run a lot, but I also want to keep my legs healthy, and I don't want to get any bone disorders when I'm older, because that's basically my own DNA right now. And I also noticed that that a lot of times I've noticed that people out there would decide and try to silence things, I guess, and they'll have to understand that through that silence it winds up in a suspicion. Through every silence there is a suspicion of something, and they will go through anything to be able to make sure that they can make this city safe again. And I'm talking about the law enforcement, civil servants, and various people around town who are highly respected and run businesses. And through that, a lot of times people think that they can control economies, but they have to realize that they tried to do that in the old days, and they didn't realize that we were just pretty much okay without anyone. But understandably so, they had to realize that sometimes we don't like change. Sometimes there really isn't a change going on. There really is something else going on, and like there's something happening, and sometimes people need to be a part of it. You know, to be able to experience something and realize that the city is getting better, and people are getting better, and things are actually working, and a lot of times I've noticed the people out there that make a difference every day and put their lives on the line sometimes. And in some cases they don't actually put their lives on the line because they're wearing a bulletproof vest always. And there are a lot of times where I believe that that people like that can keep me very much safe. And but there are a lot of times though that I worry about people around me because of the paths they choose, and there are certain situations that make me think and believe that that certain situations aren't the way that people make it seem to be. But mostly I realize and know that there are people out there that care, and there are people out there that notice things. And whenever they notice things, they start to do stuff. And hopefully people realize that there are certain situations that I believe in people through. And no matter what that situation is, I guess believe in the situation that believe in the situation that you are. Believe in the person that you choose to be. And don't let anyone change you, because the more people try to make it seem like there's something else out in front of you, instead of just the thing that's out in front of you, the more you'll realize that person's just trying to manipulate you. The more that it makes you seem that, that person's trying to give you something that's completely and utterly amazing, realize that you'll be changed forever, because there are situations out there that people don't realize and people don't understand. And through those situations that people don't realize, I've noticed that there are a lot of different situations that people really don't realize at all. Is that a lot of times when people actually say that something's going to happen, when scientists say that like certain situations are going to happen, and that means other things that I probably figure out through some sort of research, or someone else figures out and they tell me. I've noticed that a lot of times when in my life, when things went south or when things went a certain way, I noticed that through certain areas of distraction and through the certain realizations of a fact, I've noticed that I've been basically trying to build something, I guess, something that I believe and know is broken. And through the building blocks of being able to revive my life and to realize a certain fact of the matter, it makes it all worth it whenever that thing comes to fruition. And it makes it all worth it to be able to know that there are people out there that really, really do care. And I think they understand exactly what I'm going through, sometimes. But they have to realize that sometimes they don't even know the half of it, or even a portion of it. The most I try to be able to build on, the most I try to be able to realize is that the more that I get through certain situations, the more that I realize that those certain situations are building on something, and those certain things themselves are me being able to create something. And I think that a lot of times I've noticed that there is so much life out there that is just able to do so many different amazing things. And the more that I've been able to realize that that people are out there and people actually do amazing stuff, the more I've realized that through certain situations I've tried to guide them, I guess, but not really guide them, I guess. But just realize that I'm not actually, I'm not actually trying to be there, you know? I'm not actually trying to make myself known a whole bunch. But that's the point, I guess, is because it's the people that don't try to make themselves known who become, I say, the most revered. And through certain situations, I've noticed that that in my entire life, I've wanted that for myself, and I've realized that the more that I respect people and try to respect their privacy, and make them realize that no, I'm not some sort of person who decides to get into people's business and do things that are stupid. The more that I've realized that I'm, through certain situations, very lucky.
You think you fucking scare me?
And extremely extremely out to revive a certain portion of myself. The most I've actually tried to realize through certain situations is the fact that people don't realize a certain variable situation sometimes, and through that certain invariable situation, they start to realize that things happen the way they do sometimes because of certain people's insensitivity. But that doesn't mean for any example or for any existence or for any reason that person is to realize a certain truth that they have never been able to realize. And a lot of times I've noticed that that these situations that people don't understand or don't realize were basically set up around someone else. Like, say for example, people who just are kind of weird, I guess, and they say weird things. but they have a lot of money, like certain people who are in power right now as far as moviegoers go and stuff like that, you have to understand that he's just one company. The situations that derive themselves out of certain people, they have to understand that they can't villainize certain movies. And that's basically what sometimes people are doing in a certain thing. It's like, that's basically what people actually think sometimes, is people are trying to ruin movies because of all this stuff. Because what they have to understand too is that as soon as that person is outed as being, I'd say, like a deviant or a stupid idiot, and I'm talking about, I mean deviant in the way that they mess with people just to mess with them. They do things to people just to be able to have power in a certain situation, or have control in a situation that they think they have no control in. No matter if they know anything about the situation or not. It's like, it's kind of that stuff. It's not like they're, oh my god, they're having sex with each other. It's like, no, that's not what a deviant is. That's people who have sex. A deviant is a person that usually tries to control a number of things in a certain person's life, and through that certain person trying to better themselves or trying to make something for themselves, people understandably think that they don't deserve it, and then that person decides that they're going to villainize other people by saying, oh, these people aren't going to be in our company anymore, and then they'll realize that that's the only reason they did that, because they weren't actually trying to be deviants, they were just trying to fire someone. Because probably of certain contracts that they were trying to get, and they weren't actually doing anything. They were just trying to get contracts, and then someone else was just like, no, you can't have that contract. Why? Because I don't like you, that's why. And then it's like, why don't you like me? Because you don't like my company, and yet you still want to work for it. But understandably so, that's the disagreements that people have. They're stupid, they're dumb, and business never works that way. If you have a disagreement with someone else or something else, realize that there are certain things that just don't happen. There are certain things that just never come to fruition. But understandably so, the realization of fact is that those things will eventually happen whether those people want it or not. Though like the thing that I talked about, PlayStation Amusement Park, man, got a place for it and everything, dude. It's gonna be cool as hell, man. Oh, it's gonna be freaking awesome. And Nintendo Land, oh my god, dude. That's literally the only reason why all these video games came out. It's because so kids could experience a freaking place where all this stuff is like real. It's like, it's gonna be real. It's gonna be amazing. Or the closest to real that you can ever get, you know? So, realize this, is that people have been able to create things and make things that are amazing. And through artistry and certain people, they're sometimes lacking in certain experiences, and that's the reason why they act like they have such confidence sometimes. People want to be able to own the building sometimes. They don't think they're going to own the building. They just want to be able to own the building. To be able to command people's attention. And also understanding that that's probably never going to happen anymore, because everyone understands that we're all pretty much on the same level. So understanding that, realization of fact is that the realizations that you are somewhere, or the realizations that you're going to be somewhere, is the fact that you should always notice that people are going to be there for you. And then the more you notice something, the more you realize a certain situation or a certain fact, the more you realize that there are people out there that just really care. And no matter what, you'll understand that there are a lot of people out there that will bend to you. Well, they will bend the knee. They will help you. They will do whatever they can. And even if other people, even if like me and myself won't, because sometimes I just realize that I have a lack of experience in a situation. They think I have experience in a situation, which allows me to be able to connect with them a lot easier and know exactly what I'm supposed to do. But in the same situation, I'm left in the dark, because the situation is they already think I know everything. And those are the types of situations that I usually leave and leave behind. Because those situations are just not for me. In any situation, they should understand that if a person has studied their entire life about psychology and different things, I mean, the best type of thing that I should be working as is probably a social worker. But the situations and the businesses that I want to get involved with, and the people that I want to be involved with too, is something that I really am passionate about. So I really understand that I think that I'd be able to be probably a good person for understanding the talents of people, for figuring out people and the way that they do different things. And I'm really good at being able to understand certain situations and the way that they're actually going to turn out. I can see certain possibilities, and I realize that those fears, I guess, that I have aren't going to be projected on anyone. But also realize that those are not someone else's fears, but only my fear of what they will actually probably try to accomplish. And through those situations, I think people need to understand that that through accomplishing a certain number of situations, people don't realize that through time and through situations, people's emotions start to subside. And in those situations, they have to realize that if they don't realize that it takes emotion to be able to come up with passion, and it takes a thought to be able to ride that to a certain fruition or a certain snowballing effect, and it takes a lot of different kinds of people to be able to be involved in order for that situation to ever even come to fruition. So I'll wait, but and I'm not going to be mad at all, because I know what I'm going to do. And through certain situations, if you ever find that your situation isn't working out, realize that you can have another time in a different place. The more pride you have about where you are, where you stay, or who you're with, or because of something you have to do something else, realize that can happen anywhere. The situation that you can realize can happen absolutely anywhere. The situation that you can understand and realize, the situation that you can understand and realize can make you believe in something better for yourself. And the more you believe it, the more you realize that situation, the more you'll realize that anything that you believe is possible in some way, shape, or form. It's like you might not be able to levitate because you don't have metal on you, and there's no like ionic bonds that are pushing against you from the ground, and you realize that. But understandably so, that's probably the reason why Magneto never tried to use needles. Alright, guys. People have unexplainable fears sometimes. Understandably so, they don't think that a certain situation can come back to happen. But also they think that that certain situation can snowball into certain situations, and that's usually entirely not the case. Like a death god manipulating things to be able to make sure that you get hit with a ladder in the face, and then your head gets pulverized by a ladder that's moving, what, 35 miles per hour? It's not that fast. You can catch it. It may dislocate your arm, but hey, you know what? At least you caught it. Or just move out the way. But, you know, there's other things. Realize certain situations happen for some reasons. Because people get close to each other and connect to each other for different things. They think about certain things when they see different people, and they understand different things in situations where people are just not going to have it, or they're all about it. Or they're just kind of malaise or kind of depressed at the time, and they're not into it at the moment. Or they're completely and utterly excited about it all the time, and they're just ready, or they like it for a certain situation, or they don't want to use it all the time. So realize that, and we also realize that no matter what they use it for, no matter how they use it, no matter how they do things, and speaking of certain situations that snowball, certain people's emotions that snowball, no matter what they use their emotions for, they have to realize that eventually those emotions themselves, they shape them as a person. And that's what shapes you, basically. You have to realize that that's what shapes you. Not the situation, but the way that you react to it. The way that you understand it and react to it. If you want to be completely calm in any situation, act calm in every situation. If you want to be completely and utterly safe in every situation, stay inside and never go outside. Always eat snacks and walk to the gas station or the convenience store. Realize that there are people out there that really, really care. And also realize that you don't have to go completely without something. You can always find it somewhere else. And if you can't find it there or wherever you are, sometimes you just need to say that the situation doesn't call for you to be there. The situation doesn't call for you to want to be there. And the more you realize that, the more you'll understand that there are so many other people out there. And if you realize that the certain situation you're in can be so healthy for yourself, if you understand that the certain situation that you're trying to be with or trying to be around, or a certain person you're trying to be with or trying to be around doesn't want to be around you, or realize a certain situation, or understand certain things, or has a brain to be able to do that. Sometimes they're stupid, sometimes they're dumb, but realize this is people can be as insensitive as they want to be. People can be as insensitive as the most insensitive thing that they can think about. But they do it because they care. No matter what, they do it because they care. Because of certain situations that they want to happen in their lives, and people they want to be associated with. For their careers, for their friendships, for certain things like that. It's not completely evil to be completely insensitive sometimes. It's not completely evil to say, what are you doing? Or, you're a low person to me. All that stuff. It's not because of what you're wearing all the time. It's because of the situations they want to be in and the people they want to be associated with. But understandably so, you have to understand that there are people out there that are literally famous beyond words. And those people are the people that actually respect everyone and actually do sometimes try to figure out how homeless life is and do research on stuff by getting drunk and realizing that they're in the bar, or not realizing that they're not in the bar. And they've been on a binge for 2 days. And but no matter what kind of research or kind of stuff that people are trying to use or do, there are certain kinds of different situations that people are comfortable with. And no matter what they're comfortable with, realize this situation, that I'm going to explode something. Let's see here. We're going to walk right here. And the more emotion that you feel sometimes in a situation, the more you should be able to control yourself. The more times you feel as though you're fearing someone or fearing something, the more you should realize that there are situations out there that really matter whenever things actually start to be able to, and it's gonna fly, I think. There we go, right? Dang it, I wanted to do it when they was like right in the middle there. But yeah, things are on fire now. Yay. And I try really hard to be able to focus myself. And the more I've been able to do that, the more I've been able to realize that situations that I've actually used to be able to do that, I've understood that there are made it on the car. Shit. And I'm gonna explode it, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What? You cinnamon batch. You batch of cinnamon.
Can't let it slow me down. What's wrong with the world?
Did it. I'm amazing. So realize that before anything happens in your life. And realize that if you're not ready for those emotional dips and highs and stuff like that, if you're not ready for it, then they can catch you off guard. And if you're not alone, then you could seriously hurt yourself. Because it can make a reflex by doing something. And if And if certain people don't realize that there are certain situations that call for a betterment of self. I just farted again, and the most I've realized is be there for yourself, because you never know what situation comes around to be able to stop you from doing situations that you think are actually good. Realize that there are certain people out there that believe in you sometimes, and if they see you doing certain things, they don't necessarily believe in you anymore. But understand, if you ever wanted someone to believe in you in the first place, then you should have been honest with them in the first place and told them what you did. Because if you're not honest with them, if you're not actually completely 100% honest with them, they'll find out anyways. But realizing that I can't be honest sometimes, because there are certain people that I care about, and I respect them enough to leave that out. But I also understand that there's no dividing or going against something. It's just people have to understand that there are certain consequences to stuff, and I accept it. Have a good day, and you are your own one-man personal metaphorical bomb squad. You can defuse situations before they happen, and realize that you are the person that everybody looks up to, because sometimes people look up to you and they don't want to say anything because they don't want to be disappointed. So don't disappoint them, and definitely don't disappoint yourself. Make a better day and a better future for tomorrow and today, and I really do believe that everyone will start to notice that certain situations will start to actually be a little bit better, and those situations will start making a better day and a better future. And I wish and hope that people themselves will start making something better for themselves and start to realize that certain situations are trying to be there, and certain people are trying to make something happen. But I also know that within certain situations are the reasons why people don't see things coming. But realize that if you accept the bad sometimes, then you usually get the good. And no matter who you are, if you think you're my nemesis or my enemy or whatever you are, realize that I believe in you. And no matter if you think that I'm stupid or dumb or a pussy or an idiot, realize that I believe in you. And no matter what, if you start being more positive about yourself, you'll stop trying to call people that. You'll stop trying to do situations that actually start to be able to live your life, and realize that there are situations out there that stopped you from doing something, and it wasn't getting a job or losing a job. It was realizing that there were better things out there, and you started to get wrapped up in a situation, whether it was positive or negative. It completely engulfed you, and realize that certain situations out there can be better, and the more you start to realize that those certain situations can help you, the more you start to realize that the people out there are better for themselves. And the situations that matter the most are the ones that work, and the ones that work are the ones that are based on history. But also realize that the future itself is happening every single second. And sell that dirt, you know? Alright. Have a good day. And I just pressed pause for no reason. Have a good one. Be yourself. And be yourself. Be yourself. It's gonna be amazing. Be yourself.